Brothers and sisters, this being the 200th chapter review that I have done of One Piece, I certainly wanted to do something special. So here is a picture that I drew, ink over pencils, in black and white obviously, of Roronoa Zoro. This was actually the first stage when it was handed over to the lovely Vanessa Mattei, my colorist, subscriber / awesome chick. And this is the process that she went through in actually adding in the various elements needed to eventually go and take away some of those elements and ultimately print this out in this form and then paint this with watercolors. I think it is an exceptional job and honestly am just beyond floored by how well it turned out and ultimately feel like in this whole collaboration I'm almost the unnecessary component, and I'm certainly not understating things when I say that this is an absolutely beautiful piece that certainly took hours upon hours of hard work, dedication, and ultimately just an artistic vision that you certainly cannot instill in a person. It cannot be replicated, and it's certainly something that cannot be taught. You just have it or you don't, and clearly Vanessa has it. So hope you enjoy, brothers and sisters.
I'm sorry. One Piece, Chapter 200, Water Luffy.
I don't know how much longer I can do this. My God, this is hands down. This has got to be just the coolest story ever that I have ever read. Okay, opinions may differ from person to person, but my opinion is that is the coolest story that I have ever read. And I'm only 200 chapters in. So, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome and the best tale in the world, as far as I'm concerned, of One Piece. Our last chapter saw us, of course, with Luffy and Croc going head-to-head again, and Luffy being able to expose Croc's weakness and actually connect with him a couple of different times, ultimately with his Gum Gum Buzzsaw move. And then at the end of the chapter was kind of taunting him like, yeah, get up. Now I know your weakness. I'm going to pummel you type of thing. You know what I mean? I'm going to take you out. I'm not going to lose this time. So that's where the chapter left off. This chapter begins with the rest of the Straw Hats, certainly none the worse for wear. I mean, they are a little bit beat up, but they're still functioning. They're all talking there with Vivi and Pell, and they're like, hey, listen, we got like 10 minutes left. Usopp's leading the charge with this one. He's like, we got like 10 minutes left. We got to find out who is going to fire that cannon or make that explosion or whatever, right? So they're like, okay, well, let's think about it. We only got 10 minutes, blah, blah, blah. It's a three-mile radius explosion, right? So it means that if this is going to be the center of it, it's got to be, the shooter's got to be at least 1.5 miles away, right? So then they go and they figure out that, no, that's not the case, because more than likely, Croc being the dick that he is, whoever he's got doing it is probably going to be somebody. He's got some kind of suicide bomber. He's got somebody that's going to be, he's got somebody that's going to have a bomb strapped to his chest or that doesn't mind sacrificing himself, because obviously we've seen that human life means nothing to him whatsoever. Really just, pawns in a sick game of chess, and whoever he has to sacrifice to win the game is what he'll do. So we figure that out, and it's great because then they go and there's this scene and they're talking about and they're talking about what they're going to do and how they're going to this. And then all of a sudden you see this cool scene where there's Vivi, right? And coming up behind Vivi, there was one of the Baroque Works agents, and he's got a sword, right? And Zoro is on one side, Sanji's on the other side, and Zoro goes and blocks the sword shot, the sword from hitting Vivi, and you see the clang, at the exact same time that Sanji goes and throws up his frickin' foot and kicks this dude in the face to lay him out. And it's great because they show this guy's face, and he's got the BW on him for the Baroque Works, so you identify who he is. And you're just thinking, son of a bitch, man, these guys are great, Obviously saving Vivi from getting killed again. So then all of a sudden you go and you see a bunch of Baroque Works agents. These are some of the Billions agents. They're more or less the throwaway guys, I guess they might be strong by some accounts, but certainly not to the Straw Hats. Because we go and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to, imagine what kind of promotions we can get if we take out Vivi. Yeah, you're in trouble, princess, And I don't know, maybe there's 20 of them, maybe there's 50. It doesn't really matter, right? So Sanji and Zoro, it's great because they're usually arguing about shit, and they usually got that whose dick is bigger contest going. But this is cool because this is the first time that you really see them sort of work together. It's great because Sanji's just like, yeah, how long do you think this will take? And then Zoro's like, Less if we don't even talk about it. And then they go and they show this cool panel where it's each one of like the left side of one's face and the right side of the other's face, you know? And then in between them, they both say at the same time, 2 seconds. So then the next panel is Usopp and Nami and Vivi and everybody kind of escaping, getting out of the area. And they're like, hey, come on, we got to get out of here. We'll let them take care of that shit, you know? Let's figure out if we can find where this guy is, you know, if the dust settles, whatever, right? And you just sort of see like this like out of a cartoon, man, you know? Just a bunch of fists and swords and kicks flying. And you just picture, I mean, after what Zoro's been through, and even Sanji, I mean, they both, they both had pretty hard fought battles. I mean, let's face it. But man, just guys that can take a licking and keep on ticking, you know. And I thought it was kind of cool to see them go and come together for once, because usually they're fighting and making fun of each other, you know. And again, just kind of the whose thing is bigger contest. So I thought that was very cool. The rest of the chapter then goes and the focus shifts over to the fight between Crocodile and Luffy, and this for me was a really cool one. I really enjoyed everything that was put together. You see, you know, the clock ticking down, of course, and then you go and you see Crocodile, and he's going to go and get up, and he's like, oh, so you think you can beat me, huh? And Luffy's like, yep, I know I can, right? And he's like, well, I'm surprised you figured out my weakness and this and that, but no matter, I'm still going to take you out anyway. You still can't beat me. And Luffy's like, yeah, we'll see about that. So Luffy goes and goes to do his, you know, gum pistol, and he goes and fires this thing out at him, and he's like, yeah, well, how can you beat me if you can't hit me? And he dodges it, right? Dodges to the left river, and then goes and grabs onto Luffy's outstretched arm and starts sucking the life and the water out of it. And he says, and then he explains, of course, he monologues like all good villains do, and he's just like, yeah, but I can still suck all the moisture out of things with my palms, my desert palms. Now, I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and say that because of that power, he probably doesn't masturbate a lot. Now, I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe somebody wants to call up Oda and ask him, write a letter. I don't know. But I'm just saying that could be dangerous, okay? That could really, really be dangerous. Let's just think about the repercussions for that one for a second. Okay, good. Now we're good. We pictured it. We're good. So no whacking off for Crocodile. Now, maybe that's why he keeps Nico Robin around. I don't know, Miss All Sunday or whatever, you know. Hey, could you hold this for me? But I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of Baroque Works, but I do know that the battle is very, very cool, and it rages on. So then Luffy's like, son of a bitch, I forgot about that dirty trick of yours, right? So then Luffy goes and he's able to go and yank his arm back and kind of rehydrate himself or whatever. Then he goes and he comes at him again. He's like, gum pistol. And as it's stretching out and gets closer up to Crocodile, he takes his other arm and puts it on his arm and goes like this. So it goes and makes it stretch. And it's cool because as it gets close to Croc, like 20 fists, it just goes, you know, and it says shotgun, right? So a shotgun, anybody who knows how it works, is instead of just a direct bullet coming like an actual regular pistol or machine gun or assault rifle, sniper rifle, a shotgun, it comes out, and then basically there's these pellets inside that it explodes outward, so it's like a spray. So it was very cool to see this kind of new move that he was sort of inventing, you know, and on the fly. And even Croc's like, oh yeah, pretty clever move over there, right? So then Croc goes and he's just like, desert spot on! He does that thing where he goes and whips out like this sickle blade almost that comes at him, and Luffy's like, dodges, like, oh shit, that was close, you know? So then it's really kind of cool because we get this thing where, you know, he talks about, well, they're back and forth, they're arguing, they're fighting, what have you, you know. But what Luffy winds up doing is he's like, that's it, you know, I'm going to go and I'm going to just drench you with water, right, you know. And I'm going to soak you with water and then beat the living shit out of you, you know. And Crocodile's like, yeah, I figured as much. And he figured that's what the plan was, you know. So he winds up going and kind of whipping up this, like, little tornado-like sandstorm type deal, whatever, that blows Luffy and the water jug thing back or whatever. And, you know, and Luffy's like, no, the water jug, you know, he's trying to grab this water barrel or whatever. And then he's like, yeah, you seem pretty desperate. And Luffy's like, no, I'm going to beat you. And he's like, yeah, you seem a little unhinged, you know. So what he's doing is he basically, I mean, he says, Luffy, you can't, you're the same as you were before. The outcome is going to be the same as it was before. And Luffy goes, yeah, you're right. This is the same as before, you know, except for I'm different. I'm going to win, you know. So I think that was like the whole point behind what he was coming at with him. But so Luffy winds up going and he drinks up all the water. He sucks it all up. And then we go and we see what I like to refer to as Big Pillsbury Doughboy Fat Luffy, because he's just this big rotund, you know, just completely out of proportion, pear-shaped human being, kind of like he looked in Whiskey Peak after he had eaten all that food and then passed out. And so he goes and sucks up all the water, and I just thought it was kind of great how he did it. And it's so funny because then he's like, oh, it sprung a leak, and they're showing it down by like his stomach. So I don't know if maybe that's where he got like a hit a cut or a gash or something. There's a little water coming out. So he winds up going and spraying some, getting some on Croc or whatever, so he can actually nail him. He winds up spitting like a water ball at him, more or less, and he's able to do that. And then he goes and Luffy goes and he kind of just does his little kind of gear up, whatever move that he does, and just the gum, and then he winds up coming at him. He goes gum bazooka, and that's how the chapter ends. Is him just pummeling him and hitting him with this bazooka, Of course, he's soaked him first or what have you. So definitely a very, very cool chapter. A lot of fun things happening in there. The first half of it I thought was great, or the first quarter, whatever that was, where it did show the Straw Hats, and then, of course, the Sanji and Zoro thing, them finally getting along, and everybody else going to try to figure out how they can disarm this bomb or the cannon, whatever this thing is that's going to explode, so they can stop the explosion from happening. They've got 10 minutes, less than now, of course, even in manga time. Less than 10 minutes. And then just the fight that's raging on between Luffy and Crocodile, because Crocodile is just still like, hey, whatever, you may have figured out my weakness, but you can't beat me. And Luffy's like, yeah, I can. And then, of course, just, he has a vast array of powers, and it was really cool, too, because, and I have to mention this because I did forget to say it, and it was one of the most profound things in the chapter, too. He goes and he says, towards the beginning of this chapter's part of the battle, he goes and he tells Luffy, he says, he says after he sucks the water out of his arm or whatever, and he says, you can't defeat me. I don't care who you think you are, how strong you are. You're nothing. He goes, I'm one of the 7 warlords of the sea, the Shichibukai, And Luffy goes and he's like, well, if you're one of the 7 warlords, then I'm the 8th warlord of the sea, and he's just saying, so I thought that was cool. And then it was also neat because King Cobra was pinned up against the wall, and Nico Robin just kind of standing there watching the whole thing, He goes and he's just like, who is this guy, And then Nico Robin's like, she more or less just kind of alludes to he's the one that, that has saved, the princess. It looks like he saved the princess again. So then, King Cobra's putting 2 and 2 together, and he's like, is this the guy that brought, Vivi to Alabasta and everything else? And because he sees the resolve and the determination of Luffy, of course, just coming out of nowhere, and King Cobra hasn't been introduced to him formally, right? And it's kind of funny because when he says that I'm the 8th warlord, then I'm the 8th warlord of the sea, Nico Robin just starts cracking up, So again, I kind of had to go back and backtrack to get into that one, but it was a very cool chapter. It was action packed. It was fun filled. There was a lot going on in it. So sometimes I do forget. My thoughts get a little sporadic when I'm just doing these reviews. So my chapter question for you is ultimately you see, I've seen a few different times Nico Robin. And I guess this is kind of a spoiler because when I heard that her name was Nico Robin instead of Miss All Sunday, I believe that I've heard that name before. So I don't know if she's somebody who is integral and has joined the Straw Hats in the future, does join the Straw Hats, or she's like Vivi where she comes along with them for a while because their paths, are along the same lines. But I can only assume that she's not in it for the long haul because of that. So I kind of have a little bit of an answer to the question already. But you've seen a few different times, like when she kind of made fun of Crocodile back when him and Luffy were, gonna go at it for the 3 minutes in the beginning. And he was like, "You want me to kill you too, Nico Robin?" And then, of course, her just kind of standing here laughing a little bit. It seems like, and then, of course, not killing, Igaram when she was supposed to and everything else. It seems like she's got her own devious plot going there, her own subplot. So my question is, what do you think about, Robin as far as her resolve or her loyalty to Crocodile? Because to me, it really seems like she's somebody who it's kind of like no honor amongst thieves. He's paying her well enough, and her, her path is going along his for the time being. But as soon as she has a chance to, jump ship or stab him in the back, she will. I don't know if that's the case, but that's just my feeling. So, and again, maybe that's more of a statement than a question. But weigh in and let me know what you think, brothers and sisters, in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it. Here we'll do like the thumb shotgun. Didn't look good. Didn't look good at all. And subscribe if you haven't done so already. We'll look forward to catching you in the next one, Nation.
So what? You made it to 200 chapters of the One Piece. You call me when you make it to 500 chapters.
Call you, I will. Failure, an option it is not.